Beautiful people, this is the whole hearing on SB22. Yeah, Georgia Cannabis News 2023. Here we go. I'm just putting it all the way out there.
Secretary reads Senate Bill 22.
Senate Bill 22, Vice Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title II of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to hemp farming so as to amend a definition, to amend Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to offenses against public health and morals so as to prohibit the purchase of, sale of, and the offering of samples of hemp products by or to any individual under the age of 18 years old. The Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Goodman of the 8th District, Chairman.
Amendment 1.
Recognize Senator from 32nd.
We got a lot of reading.
I'm sorry.
The
Go ahead.
Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 22, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title II of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to hemp farming so as to provide for intent, to provide for definitions, to provide for license and permit fees, surety bonds, and eligibility, to provide for and require retail consumable hemp establishment licenses. That completes the order, Mr. President.
No, it doesn't. And for other purposes.
Yeah.
This is Amendment 1.
Senator Summers of the 13th District and others offer the following amendment, Amendment 1, to amend Senate Bill 22 by amending lines 27 and 28 to read as follows. Have revenue produced as a result of this chapter disposited in the State General Fund.
Amendment 2.
Senator Albers of the 56th and others offer the following amendment, Amendment 2, to amend Senate Bill 22 by striking on line 159 to 160 for renewal of any previously issued license, a background check shall not be required. Replace with shall have a background check completed every 3 years from the anniversary date of the license.
Amendment 2A.
Senator Albers of the 56 offers the following amendment, Amendment 2A, to amend Amendment 2 to Senate Bill 22 by striking the word shall and replacing it with each applicant shall. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Now I recognize the Senator from 32nd to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill relates to hemp products that were made legal by the 2018 Federal Farm Bill with a concentration of less than 0.3% THC. Since that time, there's been a proliferation of the sale of products synthesized from hemp, including Delta-8 and other cannabinoids that can be psychoactive. These products are currently being sold in Georgia without any regulation for any age. This is completely separate from either medical marijuana, which can go up to 5% THC, or recreational marijuana. Completely different issue. The FDA has recently sent a number of warning letters due to safety issues for these products, especially for children who are attracted by products like gummies that are labeled to look just like products that they may be very attracted to, and they often mimic popular brands. But the FDA, in spite of the warning letters, has punted to Congress for further instructions. So I have with me a stack of articles outlining the many health issues that have arisen and the fact that especially kids have ended up in the hospital. Poison control calls have gone through the roof related to these products, and there's even been one pediatric death that I'm aware of. So hemp-derived products are currently sold in both brick-and-mortar retailers, gas stations, convenience stores, and online. There are no safeguards in place to reduce potential harm to consumers. 21 states have enacted legislation to either restrict or ban these products, and others have bills in play right now. These products are synthesized by chemical reactions which can involve a number of toxic byproducts, such as heavy metals. Currently, we have no standards for testing for these byproducts. Recent studies have shown that only 25% of these products in retail stores actually contain the amount of THC that is on the label, and we have no labeling standards. We also have no age restriction for these products. This bill applies testing and labeling standards and an age restriction for hemp products with a THC content of less than 0.3%, such as Delta 8. It also provides for licensing and permitting fees, background checks for growers and distributors, and it provides penalties for sales to individuals under 21 years of age, which is obviously the same as alcohol. It gives authority to the Department of Agriculture for spot checks and enforcement, since they're already responsible for regulating our current hemp law. I have worked with them on this bill to be sure that they could meet the requirements of the bill. This bill is not a ban. It simply tries to add a process for protecting the public by testing, labeling, and protecting minors. I did collaborate with the senator from the 13th on this bill, and he knows more about the industry side of it, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer questions about that part of the bill when he speaks about the bill. And then finally, I'll just say that the amendments 1, 2, and 2A, I consider friendly amendments, and I have no objection to any of those. With that, I'd be happy to yield for questions.
You do have a couple questions, Senator. Actually, are you wishing to speak to your amendment? Okay, you have no questions, Senator.
As I mentioned, I have no objection to the amendments, but I'm happy to hear the authors of the amendments speak to the amendments if they so desire.
Okay, I think they're requesting to do it from the well. You can yield the well. You don't have any questions, Senator?
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Great job, though. Don't forget your gummies there, Senator. That's a statement I didn't think I'd ever make on in this roster. So we have 3 amendments here with the senator from the 13th, which to speak to his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Morning, colleagues. I want to thank the senator from the 32nd for the hard work she's put in on this bill here. Our hemp bill, in my opinion, that we have was disastrous. And we've basically gotten together and written a hemp bill that I promise you that we think we've dotted all the I's, we think we've crossed all the T's to make sure the products we get in Georgia are safe. And that's the bottom line. We want safe products. We want to make sure that when you go into a quickie store and you're not 10 years old, or if you are 10 years old, you can't buy products that say 100 milligrams of CBD or 100 milligrams of this, 100 milligrams of that, because I'll assure you it's all BS, because if you took 100 milligrams of that stuff, you couldn't get off the floor. And the problem is there's no testing to go behind any of this stuff. There's no paperwork on this kind of stuff. And it's coming in from China. It's coming in from everywhere. And we pull these gummies off the shelf and we test these gummies in independent labs. And they find out these gummies are filled with nitrates, phosphates, fish oils, anything you can possibly think of. And therefore, they're not what I would consider pure gummies. Georgia-grown stuff is pure. It's tested. It's what we need to be putting out there for people to use. We've also limited the amount of milligrams can be put in a package to no more than 500 milligrams. Well, I mean, that's a whole package, that's a whole month's worth of product. And the products, where they're designed no more than 25 per milligram, will bring these things down where they work and they're effectively in the cannabinoids that are pulled out of CBD, CBN, CBY, CBG, and all these cannabinoids that come out of these things are harnessed in the way they're supposed to work for the body. I want to push one more thing out there to you so you'll know. We moved the age to 21, as Senator from 32nd said, because 21 is obviously the time you can buy alcohol. Testing requirements on all the products. Each company that sells CBD will pay for a license, and that company will also have to show testing on these products that they have in their store. So that means every C-store out there, and we don't even know how many of them out there now selling CBD or whatever they want to call it, and however their mix is. This will give us some checks and balances in the system to bring it back to where we know what we're looking for. We also have opened the door for, we dropped the fees, the licensing fees. This will allow more people to get involved. We were concerned before there were some on the other side of the aisle that minorities were not having a chance to be involved. This allows that to happen. We dropped the fees. We made it easier for everybody to be involved. We also opened the doors for farmers to be able to grow a type of hemp that can be used in things like brick, construction work, board, siding, concrete work. We're talking about using it for clothing. We're talking about using the ground up stalk for feeds, for for horse feeds, for cow feeds, for dog food that can be mixed with hemp. I mean, we're doing test markets right now on dog food, believe it or not, that, it's not allowed to be sold yet. But dog people that have come in and they're signed up to be tested, they said their dogs will be 8, 10 years old that have seriously moving around. Their dogs are like, young dogs again. They're moving good again. This thing has so much possibility out there. And the last thing that we've done, guys, is, and I want to reiterate this one more time, is safety. This is what the bill's about. The bill is about safety, of making sure when someone goes and buys a product, at least there's some paperwork behind it to know what you're getting. Because I'll assure you, and I don't want to use the word lightly here, most of the stuff you're getting today is China trash. Most of it. We don't know where it comes from, what they bring in by the tons. And they can bring it into Georgia, and there's absolutely zero checks and balances. Absolutely zero checks and balances. And I could go on and explain to you about it takes a CBD oil, it takes 1 part of CBD oil and 1 part of THC to make medical marijuana. And that's a whole nother world, but that's where it's got to be. So you have to have the CBD to be able to make the medical marijuana. Those are parts that require to make the cannabinoids do what they say and fire the receptors in the body to accept the cannabinoids. Those are type things that we can get into and talk about. That's not in this bill, but the reality of it is that's why hemp is so important. And the last thing for farmers, and I'll speak about the ag department, this could be an entirely new crop for growing for the processes of what I mentioned before, an example of the building industry. And these could be products that grow without, quote, quote, the flowering type that you hear about all the time for the purpose of getting the trichomes and stuff out of the buds. But it could be a whole new crop that they can literally grow on their farms and almost have to use zero fertilizer. And they can just about harvest a crop twice a year. So there's a lot of things that's going to come from this as we move forward to it. But this is the first step, and I'm also okay with all the amendments, and I ask for your favorable vote on SB22. Thank you kindly and appreciate you. Mr. President, no question, I yield the will.
You do have a question. Senator from 46.
He does. I got it.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
I'm dangerous to say yes, but go ahead.
I'm going to direct your attention to the bottom of page 7, lines 174.
Are you on the green one?
175, page 7 on your committee sub. Current law prohibits a person that's been convicted of either a misdemeanor or a felony involving drugs to be a licensee. You have stricken through the prohibition against people that have been convicted of a misdemeanor involving the sale or trafficking of controlled substances. So is your intent now to allow drug dealers to be able to be licensed on?
No, sir, not intent to allow drug dealers to be a licensed on, but misdemeanor effects, not the felonies. If you notice, felonies is still in there.
Even though it would involve the sale or trafficking of a controlled substance?
I would suggest to you that that is not the intent, the way you're saying it. The issue is, are you saying that if you're a convicted felon, you're not going to be able to do it? If it's a misdemeanor, that was struck, and you're correct.
Will the gentleman further yield?
Yes.
On page 3, lines 47 and 48, your bill adds language that hemp products shall not be considered controlled substances solely due to the presence of hemp or hemp-derived cannabinoids. So in other words, that in the definition is THC. Is this going to change our criminal law that currently holds THC to be a controlled substance and punished as a felony offense?
No, Senator, not that I'm aware of in any form or fashion. We're still bound by our 0.3% as we all passed before.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator from 41st, you have a question?
Senator, do you yield?
Of course.
Senator, isn't it true that there is no such thing as a misdemeanor for trafficking drugs in this great state of Georgia?
The Senator knows of what she speaks. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you further yield?
Certainly.
Senator, I noticed that on line 154, you struck $5,000 for the cap of the maximum license. And brought it down to $1,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator, that is correct.
Senator, can you explain to me why you have to pay the state to be able to grow food?
Repeat again, please.
Can you help explain to me why I would have to pay the state anything to grow food or to grow hemp, which can be eaten?
Well, the reality behind that and the thought behind that is as you know, as a certain number of days, it's hemp and marijuana are basically the same plant, as you well know. And the reality of it is in certain days it turns to THC. So this is a way of guarding against that, where someone will have checks and balances from the probably local sheriff's department where it's grown.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
You have
Mr.
no
President,
more
yield the well.
questions.
Thank you. Favorable consideration. Thank you.
Recognize Senator from the 56 to speak to Amendments 2 and 2A.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the bill's authors for allowing me to work on this. 2A is actually just a Scrivener's error. This is just going to say that every 3 years from the anniversary date of getting the license, that a background check will still be performed. While I'm here, though, I want to thank the senator from the 6th. There's actually another area of this bill we need to do the exact same thing, and he is scribing that right now. And again, it'll be the exact type of language just to make sure that a background check is being conducted every 3 years from the anniversary date of the issuance. So every 3 years. Any questions?
You do have a question, Senator. Senator from the 41st.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm wondering, do you have a sense of how much this is going to cost the department in order to run these background checks every 3 years on people?
I do not know what the cost would be.
Okay, and has the department been consulted about the administrative burden that this would bring on the department if they have to do this every 3 years?
Well, I think that they're already going to perform that for all of the stores that are selling that, so I believe there'll be a process put in place. We have not specifically talked to the department because the amendment just came out of the Senate today. However, I think it's prudent that anybody who is in the sale of something that just not too long ago we considered a narcotic should have a background check every 3 years. I think that's reasonable.
Certainly. Do you further yield?
I yield.
Senator, isn't it true that I believe that background checks are important? However, I am concerned about the cost burden that this might have on the department because the cost of the background check is not on the grower or the processor, but the cost falls on the shoulders of the department.
And Senator, I think when the two bills authors between the senator from the 32nd and the 13 came out, they talked about how this will increase the ability for both growers and sellers to generate more revenue. And I think if we took a portion of additional revenue to assure that no criminal activity took place, that's a pretty good use of funds.
Thank you, Senator.
You have no more questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from the 52nd, do you wish to speak on behalf of this bill, for or against it?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I'm generally supportive of this bill. Our good friend, now Commissioner of Agriculture, was wanting to increase hemp farming and put this forth. And while we said medical marijuana was 5%, that this would be 0.3%. And he was also set up testing of this product in the field. Some of the cost is testing it, and it's destroyed if it's over that amount. It all sounded really good, but sometimes there's unintended consequences. And the unintended consequence, in my opinion, is Delta 8. Delta 8 is not Delta 9, and it wasn't listed in there as it is in this bill, but Delta 8 converts to Delta 9. I had a constituent back home some time back who was, their son had come home and he was slurry and red-eyed and staggering around a little bit, and they were trying to understand what was going on, and he told them finally what he had done, and they came to me. Well, you know, I'm like, my first thought was, this is illegal. They're selling a product above the legal limit. We need to do something about the store. Then come to find out it's Delta 8 that was in the product and is not illegal. Delta 8 is not as potent as Delta 9. It's about half as potent because it doesn't all convert to Delta 9. But it's still, you know, when they're handing this out in candies and people, these children and teenagers are eating candy, that's why we had a lot of calls to the poison control line, ER visits and things like that from people that were taking a lot more than they should have. So this bill, by including Delta 8 in there, is the most important part to me of the bill. Now, some people would say, well, you know, it's going to be very expensive to test these products. I'm saying if they're going to sell to our children a product and they can't tell us what's in it, then that's going to be their problem. We need to have this product tested. So I do urge your favorable consideration. I do have, and this would probably be more for the lawyers in the group, though, that when it goes to section 7 there, and it's just talking about the THC part in it. I mean, the Delta 9 in there. Are we covering Delta 8 in this section as well? And let me make sure I'm on the right section there. That would be my only question. Is that later on in the bill, it just talks about Delta 9. And I want to make sure that in this bill, it makes it abundantly clear that Delta 8 is treated exactly the same as Delta 9. Delta 9 is illegal. And that was the intent, that it could only be a 0.3% level or more. Delta 8 slipped by, and to me, that's the biggest problem we've got and the most important reason to vote for this bill. With that, I would urge your favorable consideration of this bill. Can answer any questions if need be.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? We've got more amendments. Got another amendment late coming here, so Secretary, read the amendment.
Senate Amendment 3, Senator Estevez of the 6th and Albers of the 56 offer the following amendment, Amendment 3, to amend the Senate Committee substitute to Senate Bill 22 by striking lines 188 to 190 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: permit for renewal and any previously issued permit such criminal background check or federal criminal history report shall be required for any individual applicant of key participant every 3 years from the anniversary date and the license. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the senator from the 6th to speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a friendly amendment to the amendment offered by the senator from the 56th. In the second amendment, we are requiring growers to get a background check every 3 years. If we're going to do that, it's only fair that we do that for processors of the hemp as well. As currently stated, the amendment would only require growers to get those background checks every 3 years. This third amendment would require that processors do the same thing. So holding everyone to the same standard, which is what I think we did during the Ag Committee meeting.
You have no questions, Senator.
I yield the will. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? And Chair hears none. I recognize the senator from the 32nd to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would say that the most recent amendment from the senator from the 6th is acceptable from my standpoint. And I have to say, full disclosure, I voted against the hemp bill that we passed in 2019. I won't mention any names, but in this body, I've had several people come up to me and tell me that they had chewed a gummy of a Delta 8, and I'm not going to violate HIPAA, but I will say that people are taken aback by the effects that they get from these products. And in fact, nobody really knows what they're getting when they have these products. So this, for me, is a public safety issue. I think we need to be testing and labeling these products and not selling them to children. And so I would urge you to approve the amendments and vote to protect our kids by a green vote. I yield the will. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from the 32nd, could you approach, please? Yeah. I recognize the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we reconsider the ordering of the previous amendment.
Senator has moved that we reconsider the order. So where we are right now is we had already called for the order to be considered, the previous question to be considered, and then we had a late arriving amendment. So because we had already called for the previous question to be ordered, we now have to either object or accept a friendly amendment that the senator from the 56 is asking that we consider. So if there is no objection, the previous order, the previous question will be reconsidered. Is there objection? Without objection, the previous question is now reconsidered. So we have another amendment, a late arriving amendment from the senator from the 50th, which put us in this posture, and it is going to be distributed on your desk, and I'll let the senator speak to it again. Secretary, read the caption.
Senator Huff-Sedler of the 52nd offers the following amendment, Amendment 4, to amend Senate Committee substitute to Senate Bill 22 by adding Delta 8 THC or before Delta 9 THC on line 275, 280, and on both places on line 281. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 52nd, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. In talking with some of those in the legal area about my question, they had assured me that that would take care of my concern that Delta 8 is not being treated the same as Delta 9. So it's a friendly amendment. Maybe this bill covers it. I'm not sure it's clear myself. They didn't think it was clear, and so this would just, I think, make it abundantly clear, and that's the amendment, and I hope you'll support the amendment in the bill.
Is there any other senator that wish to rise to speak for or against the measure? We don't have any more late arriving amendments, do we? All right, so the question is on the adoption of the amendments. So we're going to go with start with Amendment 1, which there's no objection from the author. Is there objection for Amendment 1? Without objection, Amendment 1 is adopted. Now, the next amendment, Amendment 2A, which I believe the author has no objection to as well. Is there objection to Amendment 2A? Without objection, Amendment 2A is adopted. Which puts us at Amendment 2. Is there objection to Amendment 2? We've got an objection from the senator from the 28th. All those in favor of Amendment 2 signify by voting the yay switch. All those opposed, vote nay. Unlock the machine. On the adoption of Amendment 2, yeas are 44, the nays are 10. All right, moving on to Amendment 3. Amendment 3. Is there objection to Amendment 3? Senator from the 36th, what purpose you rise?
I withdraw.
You withdraw. There's no objection on Amendment 3. Without objection, Amendment 3 is adopted. Question on Amendment 4 now. Amendment 4, there is objection. Senator from the 41st has objected. Those who are in favor of the amendment signify by voting the yay switch. Those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of Amendment 4, the yeas are 32 and the nays are 23. And Amendment 4 is adopted. The question is on the adoption of committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor signify by voting the yea switch. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 14th, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry. Thank you, Mr. President. Is it
question?
not true that as currently constituted post-amendment, this bill now bans Delta 8? Is it not true that this bill bans Delta 8, Mr. President?
Senator, no. On the passage of the bill, yeas are 29, the nays are 26. There's a motion to reconsider. All right. The bill has passed with the yeas of 29, nays of 26. However, Senator from 25th, what purpose do you rise?
Withdraw the reconsideration, Mr. President.
Withdraw the reconsideration, okay. All right. Moving on. Senate Bill 61. State your inquiry.
Thank you, sir. May we motion to reconsider?
You have a motion to reconsider. Is there a second? There's a second. All those in favor of reconsideration, vote yea. All those opposed, vote nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from 41st, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your purpose.
Isn't it true that because of the amendments that were just made, we are now unclear about what this bill actually does as it relates to Delta 8?
Senator's passionate about what she speaks. On the and considering the reconsideration of the bill, the yeas are 28 and nays are 27. This bill will go to the bottom of the calendar and be taken up first business day tomorrow.
Thank you so much for watching. I do hope to have time to do some, interactive videos, but this is all I got right now. If you'd like to donate or sponsor a video where I do a shorter version and some commentary, please let me know. I still have a couple of videos from the last session that I want to break down because it's important that we educate each other and keep the knowledge flowing and glowing. At the very least, please subscribe to my channel and like this video, and I will see you around the corner. And this bill is being heard tomorrow in the House Ag Committee at 2 p.m. 4:15 Club, if it's not changed. So maybe I'll see you there. It's in the form of HB 458.
Planted Hempdemic.